Okay, I'll get started now. I'm Bob, alcoholic, compulsive overeater, and I want people to like me. So, to get started with, the topic today is, where have you lost your happiness? When you think about it, you see children when they play, or when you're younger, you have all this energy and happiness and joy, and you're in the present. So what happened? Well, how come now? At times we're like, a lot of people say they come in here, they're like unhappy, they're depressed, they're upset. Restless, irritable, and discontent, we call it. Restless, irritable, and discontent. So what happened? Okay, where did it go? And, there's an interesting thing, and I wrote a few things down, but one of them is pleasure is your master. Okay, listen to this, okay? So we're always looking for happiness where? And look at our addictions when you talk about the food, the alcohol, codependency upon people. Again, people wanting them to like us, so forth. So when we have these feelings and understanding, this is probably where we lost our happiness. Again, the topic is, where have you lost your happiness? So we look for, especially, hey, in our society, it's all about materialism and money, success, and all of those things. So where did we lose it? Along the way, how come a lot of us, again, look at little children, the way they play and they're happy. So what happened? Where did we lose it? And how, obviously, the solution we're going to have at this meeting, as I always say, right here, right now, is how to find it and where it is. Because, until I knew where to look to find it, right, I didn't know where the solution was. Because I was always, again, looking on the outside for that pleasure. And the pleasure always brings more devastation, because I'm looking for something to give me pleasure. And on the other side, when I lack it, I'm upset. So I realized I'm looking on the outside. And this whole thing, where do you find pleasure? And let me just read. I have a few quotes here, may bring it to light. I wrote them down. Pleasure, here's one really interesting. Pleasure, you have to beg from others, right? So if you're in a relationship with somebody, or at work, or wherever it is, if you're depending on them to like you, to make you happy, that's where the problem is, right? So pleasure, you have to beg from other people. And again, we're looking for the pleasure from the alcohol, the drugs, and the food. We have to beg more food, more food. And the more food we get, the worse it gets, because we're looking for pleasure on the wrong place, right? So the other side, if you want to master life, okay, I'm going to tell you right now what the solution is. It's called bliss consciousness. Where do we find that? It's inside of us. We have a source, a higher power. These are what the whole program and the steps are about. It's about finding that higher consciousness, that higher power. So we have that source within us all the time. So it also says, when you are blissful and happy, it means that you're in your inner source. Okay, we have prayer, meditation. When we get centered and we don't make it about the past, again, we don't make it about the future, we make it in the eternal present. Again, when we were children, we were out there playing in the eternal present. You see children the way they are. But why, as adults with oral intellect and all the years and all the knowledge, I had all of these self-help books, I try to analyze my problem. Why couldn't I be like that little child? Why couldn't I be happy? Again, I was looking in the wrong place. I was looking for all the things outside of me. And again, I say the way we're brought up, but also, God gave us these 5 senses, right? The taste, the see, the hearing, the smell, and all of that, the touch. All of these things, but we use it to make it our whole life. So we made food, alcohol, drugs our higher power. We made the thing we think about the most our higher power. So with people, when we had a resentment, that's where we went. We had the resentment, the anger, and the fear come in. So this is where the problem was. So again, where have you lost your happiness? We lost it in the world. Again, the quote is, be in the world, but not of the world. So when we're in the world and we think these worldly things are the answer and the solution, we look for happiness outside of ourselves, it is very, very momentary. And you know where I'm going with this, because I'm going to use the example, again, of the man who climbs Mount Everest. Momentary pleasure. Even winning a lottery, if you want to put it in more terms that we could relate to, winning the lottery, it's just a momentary pleasure. But on the other side, just like the man who climbs Mount Everest, when he gets home, or when we win the lottery, we want more. Well, we realize that if the money made us happy, we want more of it, more money. So, we always say that the poor person is the one who becomes very successful and rich. right? Because it's harder for them to get this inner essence, this God-given joy, to enjoy the universe, because for them it becomes all about the power, the prestige. Hey, why not? People are lauding them and making them feel, great because of their what they've achieved politically, or in a business situation, or monetarily, or in fame, famous actresses or whatever it is, or famous musicians. So they get lost, and you see that all around. You see these people, and a lot of them end up, going what they call to the bitter end, killing themselves because they kept on looking for more. And the confusing thing was, they wondered and they sat there why they weren't happy. And on one side, they had all that elation and joy because people and money came to them, but it caused just as much depression, upset on the other side. So bliss is being in the eternal present. Again, the past is being depressed, the future is anxiety. And also, I have another quote here, and it relates to all of this. When you gain nothing. Okay, when you gain nothing. We in our minds think that, again, when we gain something from things outside of us, the alcohol, the drugs, the food, if we gain more food, you're feeding the ego. You're telling the ego that the more food I have, the better I feel. And here's another quote. Wow, I wrote these down. I just might as well read them to you. But here, money makes you a slave, not a master. Okay, it makes you a slave. You know what else? What makes you a slave? When you want, somebody will say, hey, look, I got this right person in my life is amazing, and I got them to be with me, and I did all of these things, and I'm wealthy and I have all of these things. But you know what? You pretty much in life think you're manipulating life when you get rich and you control people. But the problem is, it's like a carrot on a stick. You're being manipulated. So anytime you think you're doing well by controlling people, being more successful, having more money, whatever it is, realize that control really is in the hands of the other person. You're being controlled. You're being a slave to your need for these material things, for the ego. The ego is the one, pride. It's pride, one of the 7 deadly sins. And of course, gluttony is another one. So when we think of the self trying to get over, trying to get more in life, we become more miserable. Desire is the cause of all suffering. Let me read some more of these here. And here's a good one. An unawakened person, because this is just what I said, sees only food. Here's a good one. Food, drugs, sex, material things like money. That's their joy. That's where they find the joy and happiness, and they get off center.